Hi everybody, and welcome back to the IBEX studio. We are about to find out a lot about AI, about robotics, and generally Viam as a company. So I'm here with the founder and CEO. Nice to see you, Eliot.
Hey, great to meet you.
So let's have some context. Who are you? What's your background, and what does Viam do?
Yeah, so I'm Eliot Horowitz. I'm the CEO and founder of Viam. You know, I grew up fishing, spent a lot of time fishing there. Then I took a little detour in life and spent 13 years building a database company, MongoDB.
Okay, yeah.
Left MongoDB in 2020, and it was also during COVID, it turns out, and got back into fishing and boating pretty seriously. And that was sort of where a lot of this started. I also started tinkering around my house and trying to make things better.
Right.
And there's a common theme between everything I was doing on my boat and in my house, which is that building software and tools for the physical world was just too hard. So I started building things for my boat so I could understand it and do things on that made it better. Started building some robots for my house, and that turned into Viam.
So these are like little systems, little better ways of doing things that you kind of put in together. You're thinking, that could be done better, and then you'd find some kind of little solution.
That's sort of my process throughout my career has been finding little things that I don't like, that aren't quite working well, and then improving them and seeing what happens. And in this case, it was, I want better monitoring for my boat. I wanted to see what's happening when I'm not there.
Right.
I also wanted to build a better robot to feed my cats.
Okay.
And things like that. And there's this great unity where I realized that to solve both problems, you just need better tools and better software.
Yeah.
And that led us down a path for building robots for industries like, marine and boat manufacturing, through pets, through AI for companies like Kongsberg, and it's the whole variety of things.
Yeah, so it's a pretty exciting time to get into that space as well. AI is going pretty wild. Robotics is getting really quite advanced now. And then with your background in data, that kind of married up to where you are now.
Yeah, exactly. I think the future is very bright in this space. We're just at the beginning. It's still very, very early.
Yeah. And so what's the core of the solution today? What are its kind of capabilities? What are the big problems solved?
So we can talk about two different things. So in the platform itself, it's really about bridging the hardware and software worlds. So let's talk about the marine space for a second and sort of some of the things we're doing here. First is with Kongsberg and their product, the SY50, which is a omni sonar for fishing, both commercial and recreational. And so they've got these devices, they're really powerful, and they live on both recreational and commercial boats. And we've helped them develop an AI system, so it's easier for captains to tune the sonars, to get data out of them, to know where to go fishing, which is great because they are more efficient, save fuel, catch the right fish, less bycatch.
Yeah.
It's great in all ways. And on the flip side, here, we were working with Viking, and they came to us and said, hey, we'd really love a sanding solution, right? We can't have an orbital sanding. We really would like a robotic block sanding solution because, sanding is one of our biggest problems. It's sort of back-breaking hard work.
Yeah.
And so the question is, can we develop a block sanding solution? So that was earlier this year, and then we did it, and it's
what a case study. Like work with Viking yachts, really. It sounds like you work with them quite closely, actually, to say, what's the big problem here? What's the biggest problem you could solve with this kind of solution? And sanding, polishing, that kind of heavy labor, a long time doing a pretty repetitive task.
Yeah, very heavy labor, and the whole idea is how do we make better tools? It's not about, removing jobs. It's really about how do we make better tools to make people more efficient, right? Because no one I'm talking to in manufacturing, whether it's boat manufacturing or other manufacturing, no one's trying to get rid of jobs. They're all trying to produce more and more and more, right? They want more throughput. And the biggest challenge
it's output.
is...
It's not replacement. They can be doing far more effective things.
They all want to sell more. Yeah. When they want to make more, whatever it is, whether it's boats or can openers, they just want to make more of them.
Yeah.
And so the question is, how do you make better tools to make them more efficient?
Yeah. And so can you take me through how you kind of go from a boat builder or a manufacturer that does not use much, if any, robotics, AI technology, that kind of assistance, into engaging with Viam and actually making progress on that front?
Yeah, so I think there's a few ways to think about it. In the sanding case, right, now that we've developed this, so anyone who is interested in sort of a block sanding, it's pretty turnkey.
Right, perfect.
You come to us, you say, great, you want to do block sanding?
Right, we do a whole lot of sanding, it's productized, there you go.
What size block do you want? What size arms do you want? And we can mix and match, right? You need some small arms, some big arms for different parts. Maybe you want to sand some outdoor fiberglass panels, but then you also want to sand a hull.
Yeah.
We can make some small arms, some big arms.
Yeah.
But then we've got some other customers who are interested in things like spraying. So spraying gel coat or spraying varnish.
Anything
and there
finish.
we'll sort of develop them with it and be like, great, how do you want it to work? And then we'll develop a solution with them and then go make that repeatable for other customers who want the same thing.
Yeah. And how do you kind of develop these products? So do you actually go into the manufacturer, study how they do the process, the motion, the actions, all that kind of stuff? How does it actually happen?
One of the really important things for us is that we don't change the way they do things. Like, we don't change the way they build boats. We just make the robots do what the humans did.
Right.
And so it usually is going to the factory, watching what they do, learning from their experts, figuring out what is easy for the robots to do and where the humans can help. Right. And because we're not trying to make these fully autonomous sort of magic robots, it's really, again, about tools. Right. You've got these skilled people who know a lot about sanding or spraying. So the question is, how do you let them get better leverage for their skills by using more tools? We don't need to make the robots brilliant because we've already got the brilliant humans. Let's just let the brilliant humans be more effective with tools. And then we'll take that, we'll bring it back to our lab, and we'll develop a solution in our lab, bring it to the factory, and then go from there.
Yeah. And in terms of quality, how good are these robots? What's a good way of understanding what their capability is?
So it all depends on the use case, but for these cases, for block sanding, so when you're block sanding, you're going to do multiple passes. In the early passes, you're removing a lot of material. It's the hardest labor, and the quality is a little, it doesn't have to be as perfect as a perfect smooth finish.
Right.
So the robots there are really good. And then I think they'll get smarter and better, and so they'll be able to do more and more pieces of it. So we're looking at for the biggest bang for the buck for manufacturers. Where's the most annoying labor, the hardest labor, where then we can go and solve that problem and then keep moving. Right? It's not about perfection. It's not about, again, removing all the people. It's really just about making them as efficient as we possibly can.
Yeah, it's a bit more like look at the whole operation and go, wait, we can speed this along by 90% of it being done by this kind of solution, and then we can just do the final polish, the finishing touches, so their output is ultimately
or the nooks and crannies
massively increased.
Little nooks and crannies. We don't need to solve that.
Yeah. A human's actually quite a good solution for that. So, keep the human doing that, and get the robots doing what they're good at. Yeah. And so you've come to IBEX. You've got a really great study and kind of background in boating with Viking Yachts. What kind of things are you looking for here? Who are you engaging with? What are the exciting conversations?
Yeah, so mostly we're talking to boat builders who, a lot of US manufacturers here, all looking to do what we're talking about, right? Increase production, more repeatable, more consistent, and can have their people be able to do the things that they want to do and not have to do as much manual labor and do the heavy lifting. And so, more tools. So we're talking to people about sanding. We've got our sanding robot on the floor. Also talking to people about other things they want, whether it's spraying or polishing or waxing, a whole bunch of other things that are very hard for boat manufacturers today to keep labor. And so how do we make those problems go away?
Yeah. And how have those conversations gone? Have you found manufacturers are fairly open to this? Are they quite cautious?
So it's interesting. I think everyone is a little unsure of robots, but on the other hand, the problem is real. And so they see it, and I think seeing is believing. Yeah. But when you talk to people on the phone, you're like, hey, we've got a robot that blocks sands. They're a little you see a video and it's like, really?
Yeah, maybe they do. How good is it? How effective? How realistic?
Exactly. And that's why events like this are so great, because you can actually come to the booth and just see it.
Yeah, I've seen the demo.
And you can touch it. You can see it. You can touch it. You can feel it. You're like, oh, this thing actually works.
Yeah.
And there's a completely different feeling.
And so what's the target with this? Are you trying to, is this going to become like an industry standard of manufacturing, where actually a manufacturing facility has a lot less human labor there for the same output, or something different? Like, what's the...
So I think, hopefully it becomes an industry standard. And our take is it doesn't reduce the number of people, but actually increases throughput with the same people. Yeah. And because sanding ends up being a bottleneck in a lot of cases, you actually will end up needing to hire more people to keep up with the other work. But sanding ends up being a bottleneck because it's hard to keep people employed doing it, because it's not fun.
Yeah, I always think of manufacturing as a game of limiting factors.
Exactly.
Find what the limitation is, solve that, and there'll be another limiting factor, there always is.
Exactly.
But let's not make that human labor, because we've got so much capability with technology.
Exactly. And everyone wants to produce more, so.
Yeah, more output, more revenue, more money, happy days.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so you mentioned a partnership with Kongsberg. What exactly are you doing there? Can you just go in a bit more depth?
So Kongsberg has this product called the SY50, the Simrad SY50. And it's an omni sonar for fishing. Right, so it's looking below the boat for fish, for both, again, recreational and commercial fishing.
Yeah.
And what we do is we're processing all the data, and then we've built an AI model with Kongsberg to figure out what returns are actually fish, and then putting that on the screen for the captains so they know where to go. Just making fishing more efficient.
So it's kind of going a little bit beyond maybe a signal, a blip, or something like that, and saying actually it's probably this species which is on your target list.
You know, everyone who has read a radar or a sonar on a boat, it's more art than science. But you kind of think, what is that? And you're kind of guessing.
Yeah, relying on experience, bits like that.
And the really experienced people, the super skilled people, can tell you a lot more than you know. But it takes a lot of practice. So if someone's fishing 8 times a year, 10 times a year, they can't possibly get that level of skill. Yeah. But they still want to get the advantages of having the right technology. And so for us, we can train models based on the output of the experts, and then let everyone have that expert level knowledge from their technology.
Yeah. And so this is going quite a bit beyond manufacturing already with that case study. What are the potentials are there? So beyond the sanding, the polishing, and the manufacturing use cases, which other solutions are really exciting for you?
So all of the AI ones on the sort of sonar radar I think are great. So we started with sonar. I'd love to do just like down sonars. So you're looking at your depth finder and you know what you are. Another one of our clients, Canyon Runner, is building a thing where you can actually see in real time depth in dangerous inlets or bays, where everyone has navigation maps, but they're always a little outdated after a storm or something. Yeah. And so we actually have all this data, and we're working with them to surface it, where they can actually see in real time, what boats went here in the last 24 hours and what was the depth. So you can actually get real time maps, for example. So there's all these cool things you could do.
Yeah. Okay, cool. What about the company? So 3 years time, 5 years time from now, where do you want to be? What's the target?
So I think there's a few ways to think about it. I think we want sanding and surface finishing to be much more automated. We think overall in the manufacturing space, more and more manufacturing is and should be coming back to the US, and we want to really enable that through more automation. Right? It's not about taking the manufacturing that's happening in here and reducing the headcount. It's about how do we produce 100 times more things in the US, but with 10% of the labor that it would have done before. That's a really big focus for us. And then we also think a lot of these manufacturing companies over time are going to become more like tech companies, right? They're going to become more innovative and want to innovate on the technology. And we want to be the assistants for them. Like, hey, they're not the experts on these things, we are, but they're the ones with the ideas. They're the ones trying to come up with new ways to solve these problems, and we're helping them out. Yeah,
with a lot of connectivity and the kind of Internet of Things, but throughout the whole manufacturing process, so they'll end up being one tech system.
Right, there's so many different things, right? It's all about, again, I like what you said before. What is the current bottleneck? How do we solve that bottleneck and move forward?
Yeah. Elliot, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I've learned a lot.
It was really great meeting you.
Pleasure meeting you. Thank you. Everybody, if you enjoy content like this, make sure you're following here to see plenty more of it. All being well, I'll see you again next time. Bye for now.